I am Anna Williams, 28, an art gallery curator engaged to Michael Collins. We were supposed to get married tomorrow after 2 beautiful years together, but this morning I received a text from him that made my stomach clench. My mum is inviting you to dinner today. Patricia Collins has never liked me. She has barely spoken 10 words to me despite my efforts. Why would she suddenly want me for dinner the night before our wedding? Something feels very wrong. Before I tell you what happened at that dinner, let me know where you are watching from, hit like and subscribe. If you want to hear how a pre-wedding family dinner revealed dark secrets that changed my life forever. I first met Michael Collins 2 years ago at the Horizon Gallery in downtown Chicago. I was curating a contemporary sculpture exhibition, and he attended the opening night. I remember spotting him across the room, tall with dark hair and piercing blue eyes, studying a twisted metal piece with genuine interest, while most guests were more focused on the free champagne. "What do you see in it?" I asked, approaching him with professional curiosity. He turned to me with a smile that made my heart skip. Rebellion against structure, but with an underlying respect for form. The artist must have had classical training before breaking the rules. I was impressed. Most visitors gave surface-level observations, but Michael had seen exactly what the sculptor intended. We spent the next hour walking through the exhibition, discussing each piece, our conversation flowing effortlessly from art to books to travel. By the time the event ended, I had forgotten I was supposed to be working. "Would it be terribly unprofessional if I asked for your number?" he said as the gallery was closing. 3 days later, we had our first date. 6 months after that, I moved into his downtown apartment. I should explain that before Michael, my life had been relatively simple. I grew up as an only child in a middle-class neighborhood in Indianapolis, raised by my mother after my father left when I was 4. Mum worked as a high school English teacher, instilling in me a love of art and literature. She passed away from breast cancer during my senior year of college, leaving me essentially alone in the world. By the time I met Michael, I had built a respectable career as a curator, with a small circle of friends, most notably my best friend Sophia from graduate school. I was content, but admittedly lonely. Michael filled that void with his charm, intelligence, and seemingly endless interest in everything about me. When he first mentioned meeting his family 3 months into our relationship, I was both excited and nervous. The Collins family was old money with a sprawling estate outside Chicago. Michael spoke of them often, especially his mother Patricia, whom he described as particular but loving. I still remember the drive to their estate that first Sunday, the sprawling lawns and the imposing 3-story colonial house with white columns. Michael squeezed my hand as we walked up the stone path to the front door. "They are going to love you," he assured me. Patricia Collins opened the door herself, a tall, slender woman in her 60s, with perfectly coiffed silver hair and calculating eyes that assessed me immediately. Her smile never reached those eyes. "So this is the gallery girl," she said, accepting my extended hand with a limp grip. "Michael has told us so little about you. That first dinner set the tone for our relationship." William Collins, Michael's father, was outwardly friendly but emotionally distant, asking polite questions about my work without actually listening to the answers. Patricia subtly highlighted my middle-class background with questions about where I had summered as a child and which prep school I had attended. Mum Anna went to public school and then Northwestern on scholarship, Michael interjected. "She is brilliant with or without the pedigree." The only genuinely warm person was Michael's sister Jessica, 2 years younger than him, and working as a pediatrician in the city. She seemed curious about me in a kind way, asking about exhibitions I had curated and sharing stories of Michael's childhood. Over the following months, I tried everything to win Patricia's approval. I brought thoughtful gifts, offered to help in the kitchen during family dinners, asked her advice about art acquisitions for the gallery. Nothing worked. Her politeness never thawed into actual acceptance. "Your mother clearly hates me," I told Michael after a particularly tense Easter lunch. "She does not hate you," he insisted. "She is just protective. It takes time to become part of the Collins family. Trust me, once we are married, everything will be different." When Michael proposed after a year of dating, I was ecstatic. He took me to the Art Institute, to the Impressionist Gallery, where we had spent our second date, and got down on one knee beside Monet's water lilies. The ring was a family heirloom, a large emerald surrounded by diamonds. "It belonged to my grandmother," he explained as he slipped it on my finger. "Mom insisted you should have it." I was touched by this gesture from Patricia, hoping it signaled a turning point in our relationship. I was wrong. From the moment we announced our engagement, Patricia took control of the wedding planning. What I had envisioned as an intimate gallery ceremony with close friends transformed under her direction into a society event for 300 guests, most of whom I had never met. The Collins family has certain obligations, she explained, when I expressed concern about the growing guest list. Your wedding is not just about you. Michael constantly sided with his mother, claiming it was easier to go along with her plans than cause conflict. It is just one day, Anna, he would say. We have our whole lives ahead of us. But as the months of planning progressed, I began to feel like a stranger at my own wedding. Patricia changed the venue from my favorite gallery to the historic Collins family church. She vetoed my choice of caterer in favor of the exclusive club they had used for generations. Even my dress was not spared her interference. Darling, that neckline is not appropriate for a Collins bride, she said during what should have been my private fitting. Collins women have always worn the modest cut with lace overlay. By the time we were a month from the wedding date, I barely recognized the event we were planning. But I comforted myself with the thought that once we were married, we would return to our life in the city, just Michael and me, building our future together. Little did I know that the dinner invitation I would receive the day before our wedding would change everything I thought I knew about the man I loved and the family I was about to join. 6 months of wedding planning had left me exhausted and increasingly disconnected from the joyful event this was supposed to be. Every decision became a battlefield, with Patricia laying claim to traditions I had never heard of and Michael acting as her loyal soldier rather than my partner. The Collins family always uses white roses with exactly 3 sprigs of lily of the valley, Patricia insisted when I suggested incorporating sunflowers, my mother's favorite. Anna, please, it is important to my mother, Michael would add, effectively ending any discussion. Without my own mother or family to support me, I felt increasingly isolated. Sophia became my sounding board as the wedding preparations consumed more of my life and identity. I barely recognize you anymore, Sophia said over coffee 3 months before the wedding. You used to be so confident and decisive. Now you ask permission to order your own coffee. That is not fair, I protested, though a part of me recognized the truth in her observation. And Michael encourages it, she continued. Have you noticed how he always checks with his mother before making any decision? How he reports back to her constantly? That is not normal, Anna. I had noticed changes in Michael as the wedding approached. The man who had once admired my independent spirit now criticized my choices, from how I dressed to how I spoke to waitstaff. He would text his mother throughout our dates, and several times I caught him photographing our dinner to send to her. Why does your mother need to see our meal? I asked after the 3rd such incident. She likes to know we are eating well, he replied, as if this were perfectly reasonable. 3 weeks before the wedding, we had our worst fight yet. I had finally put my foot down about the wedding vows, refusing to include the phrase honor and obey that Patricia insisted was a Collins tradition. No, I said firmly. I will promise to love, honor, and cherish you, but I will not promise to obey you like some Victorian child bride. Michael's reaction shocked me. His face flushed with anger, his voice dropped to a cold tone I had never heard before. You think this is about you, he hissed. This wedding, this marriage is about becoming part of the Collins legacy. My mother is right. You have never understood what that means. Then, as quickly as the storm had appeared, it passed. Michael's face softened and he pulled me into an embrace. I am sorry, Anna. Wedding stress is getting to all of us. Of course we can use the vows you prefer. That sudden mood shift disturbed me more than the argument itself. It was as if 2 different people lived inside my fiancé. 2 weeks before the wedding, while Michael was at work, I was searching for a specific tie he wanted to wear for the rehearsal dinner when I found a strange photo album tucked in the back of his closet. Inside were pictures of Michael with different women all around my age, all posed formally with his family. What struck me as odd was the similarity of the women, not in looks, but in the careful way they were positioned in the photos. Always in the center, always wearing specific family jewelry. One photo showed a woman wearing the same emerald ring now on my finger. When I asked Michael about the album, he became agitated, claiming they were just ex-girlfriends and demanding to know why I was snooping. He took the album and I never saw it again. The next day, I managed to speak with Jessica alone after a final menu tasting that Patricia had orchestrated. Who are the women in that old photo album? I asked directly. Jessica's face paled. You found that? Yes, Michael got very upset when I mentioned it. She glanced around nervously, though we were alone in the restaurant's coat room. Anna, there are family traditions that might seem strange to outsiders, she said cautiously. The Collins family has certain expectations, especially for brides. What kind of expectations? It is not my place, she said, but then added in a whisper, just be careful, pay attention to anything unusual, especially if my mother invites you to anything alone. Before I could press further, Patricia appeared, her timing so perfect, I wondered if she had been listening. There you are. The pastry chef wants your opinion on the cake filling, though. Of course, we will be using the traditional Collins family recipe. The rehearsal dinner 2 nights before the wedding was held at the Collins estate. As 50 of our closest friends and family gathered in their formal dining room, I could not shake a growing sense of dread. Patricia gave a toast that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Tomorrow evening, we welcome Anna officially into the Collins family fold, she said, raising her glass. Every generation needs new blood to continue our legacy. Anna has been selected to carry this honor. Selected. Not chosen, but selected. The word choice bothered me, as did the knowing looks exchanged between some of the older family members. Throughout the evening, various Collins relatives approached me with strange comments. You are very brave, said an elderly great-aunt, patting my hand. The first night is the most difficult. Remember to drink everything offered to you tomorrow, advised a cousin. It makes the transition easier. By the end of the evening, my anxiety had reached such a pitch that I considered postponing the wedding. When I tried to discuss my concerns with Michael as he drove me back to our apartment, he seemed distracted. It is just wedding jitters, he said dismissively. Get some sleep. Tomorrow night you become a true Collins. The next morning, the day before our wedding, I woke to a text message from Michael that made my stomach clench. My mom is inviting you to dinner today. Just you. She says it is important. I will meet you there at 7. I stared at the message on my phone screen, reading it over and over. My mother-in-law-to-be, who had barely spoken directly to me in 2 years, suddenly wanted me for dinner alone the night before our wedding. Every instinct told me something was wrong. I called Michael immediately. What is this about we have a million last-minute wedding details to handle? Mom says it is a special tradition, he replied, his voice oddly flat. The bride always has dinner with the family the night before. It is important to her. Why am I just hearing about this tradition now? Please, Anna, just do this one thing without questioning it. I will be there too, just a bit late. I need to pick up something from the jeweler for tomorrow. I hung up feeling unsettled and immediately called Sophia. Do not go, she said after I explained. Seriously, Anna, everything about this feels off. You have been telling me for months how weird his family is, especially his mother. But what if this is her way of finally accepting me? If I refuse, it will just confirm her belief that I am not good enough for her precious family. Sophia sighed. At least keep your phone on you at all times. Text me when you arrive and every hour after that. If I do not hear from you, I am calling the police. You are being dramatic. Humour me. And Anna, trust your instincts. If anything feels wrong, leave. I spent the afternoon in a state of nervous anticipation, torn between hope that this dinner might represent a thawing in Patricia's attitude and dread based on all our previous interactions. I chose my outfit carefully, a deep green wrap dress that complemented my auburn hair and made me feel confident. At 6:45 p.m, I pulled up to the Collins estate. The imposing house looked different somehow. Usually only the first floor was fully lit for family dinners, but tonight, lights blazed from every window, including the rarely used 3rd floor. Several expensive cars I did not recognize lined the circular driveway. As I approached the front door, I noticed unusual decorations. Small bundles of herbs hung over the entrance, and what looked like symbols had been chalked discreetly on either side of the doorframe. Before I could examine them more closely, the door swung open. Patricia stood there wearing a long, elegant black dress I had never seen before, adorned with an unusual pendant featuring a dark red stone. Anna, darling, welcome, she said with unexpected warmth, embracing me. We have been waiting for you. Her sudden affection was jarring after 2 years of cool tolerance. As she led me into the foyer, I noticed the house had been transformed. The usual tasteful decor had been supplemented with what looked like ancient family heirlooms, tarnished silver candelabras, tapestries with faded symbols, and arrangements of dried flowers and herbs on every surface. We have prepared something special for you tonight, Patricia said, guiding me toward the drawing room, where I could hear the murmur of several voices. The drawing room was filled with people, many of whom I recognized from the rehearsal dinner, but others who were strangers to me. All were dressed formally, creating an atmosphere more suited to a gala than a family dinner. Michael will be joining us shortly, Patricia assured me, handing me a glass of deep red wine. This is a special vintage we save for significant family occasions. I took the glass but did not drink, remembering the strange advice from the cousin at the rehearsal dinner. An elderly woman I recognized as Great Aunt Meredith studied me with unexpected intensity, then nodded to Patricia with apparent approval. "She will do nicely," I overheard her murmur. "Good bone structure, healthy, no family to complicate matters." The comment made my skin crawl. I set down my untouched wine and tried to find Jessica among the guests, hoping she might provide some clarity, but she was nowhere to be seen. Michael arrived 30 minutes late, looking tense despite his smile. He kissed my cheek mechanically and stayed close to his father, avoiding direct conversation with me. When I tried to pull him aside to ask what was happening, Patricia smoothly intercepted us. "It is time for the toast," she announced, raising her glass. The room immediately fell silent. For 8 generations, the Collins family has maintained its prosperity and influence through dedication to our unique heritage, she began. Each generation requires new blood to continue our legacy. Tonight we welcome Anna as our newest selection, who will ensure the Collins line continues to thrive. The guests raised their glasses with a strange solemnity. "To the selection," they intoned together. "To the Collins legacy," added William Michael's father, who had appeared at my other side, effectively trapping me between himself and Patricia. Throughout the cocktail hour that followed, I tried repeatedly to speak privately with Michael, but each attempt was smoothly thwarted by a family member engaging one of us in conversation. I noticed everyone watching me carefully, studying my reactions, my movements, even the way I held my still full wine glass. I overheard fragments of conversation that made little sense but increased my unease. The preparation is complete in the East Room. Midnight is optimal according to the calculations. This one seems more resilient than the last. Let us hope she does not panic. When dinner was announced, I was surprised to be led to the head of the table, a position normally reserved for Patricia as the family matriarch. "The place of honor is yours tonight," Patricia explained, placing her hands on my shoulders as she seated me. The dinner itself was unlike any previous meal with the Collins family. Course after course of unusual dishes was presented with great ceremony, a blood-red soup with floating herbs, a fish preparation so ancient, the server explained that it predated written recipes, a meat dish with a sauce that smelled of unfamiliar spices. "You must try everything," Patricia insisted from her place nearby. "Each dish is part of becoming a Collins." I pretended to eat while moving food around my plate, increasingly certain that something was very wrong. My suspicion was confirmed when William offered a toast to the bride's sacrifice. Before quickly correcting himself, "I mean to the sacrifices a bride makes for her new family." The slip made Michael glance sharply at his father, the first sign of tension between them I had ever witnessed. By the time dessert was served, a heavy custard dotted with dark berries, my nerves were stretched to breaking point. I excused myself to use the restroom, determined to call Sophia and possibly leave altogether. "Second door on the left," Patricia directed, though I already knew where the guest bathroom was located. Instead of turning left, however, I deliberately went right then up a small service staircase I had discovered during a previous visit. My plan was to find a quiet corner to call Sophia, but as I reached the second floor, I heard strange chanting coming from behind a door I had never noticed before. The door was locked, but through the keyhole I could see flickering candlelight and what appeared to be a stone altar covered with symbols similar to those I had spotted at the front entrance. "You should not be here," I jumped at the voice behind me. Jessica stood in the hallway, her face pale with fear or anger, I could not tell which. "What is going on, Jessica? What is all this?" She glanced nervously over her shoulder. "They will notice you are gone. Come with me quickly." Jessica grabbed my wrist with surprising strength and pulled me down the corridor away from the locked room. Instead of leading me back downstairs, she took me to what appeared to be a study at the far end of the hall, locking the door behind us. "We do not have much time," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They will start looking for you soon." "Jessica, you are scaring me. What is happening? Why is everyone acting so strange?" She closed her eyes briefly as if gathering courage. "The Collins family is not what you think, Anna. The wealth, the influence, the generations of success, it all comes with a price." "What price?" "A sacrifice. Every generation, the oldest son must bring a bride who will be sacrificed to ensure the family's continued prosperity." I stared at her, waiting for her to laugh and say she was joking. She didn't. "That is insane," I finally managed. "Human sacrifice." In 2024, you expect me to believe that Jessica moved to a bookshelf and pulled out what looked like an ancient leather-bound volume. The Collins family has maintained these traditions for centuries. They believe that an ancient entity they worship grants them wealth and power in exchange for the sacrifice of a specifically chosen bride. She opened the book to reveal handwritten pages with disturbing illustrations of robed figures surrounding an altar with a woman laid upon it. "This cannot be real," I said, though the cold dread in my stomach suggested otherwise. "It is very real. Why do you think I was adopted?" Jessica's eyes were intense. William and Patricia had Michael, their biological son, who would continue the bloodline. They adopted me because I could never be the sacrifice. The chosen one must be an outsider with specific qualities brought in willingly. My mind raced back through everything: Patricia's coldness, the strange family traditions, the comments about new blood, and selection. "The other women in the photo album," I said slowly. "The ones wearing this ring." Jessica nodded grimly. "Michael's previous girlfriends. Each one was selected as a potential bride, but only you made it to the final stage. What happened to them?" "They became unsuitable. One asked too many questions. Another had a health condition the family discovered. The most recent one before you sensed something wrong and broke the engagement." "She was lucky," I whispered. "Yes, the Collins family preys on women like you, Anna. Intelligent, accomplished, but isolated. No family to ask questions if you disappear." The reality of my situation crashed down on me. "The dinner tonight is the preparation ritual. The wine is drugged to make you compliant. At midnight, they will take you to the preparation room you were just trying to look into. The actual sacrifice is performed by the groom, in this case, Michael, to bind him to the pact." I felt my legs go weak and sat heavily in a nearby chair. "Michael knows about this. He is part of it." Jessica's face softened with something like pity. "He was raised in this, Anna. From childhood, he was taught that this is his duty to the family. Each Collins son is groomed to charm, to woo, to select the perfect bride, not just for marriage, but for sacrifice." "But he seemed to love me," I said, hating how my voice broke. "Perhaps he does in his way, but Michael has always been devoted to the family above all else. His loyalty to the Collins legacy is absolute. I thought of all our moments together, all our plans for the future. Had any of it been real? Or was I just being fattened for slaughter the entire time?" "We need to get you out of here," Jessica said, moving to a desk drawer. "I have prepared for this. I have a key to the back gate, and my car is parked behind the greenhouse." She pulled out a set of keys and a small object that looked like an antique brooch. "Take this. It is a family heirloom that can disrupt the ritual if they catch you." "Why are you helping me?" "Why now?" Jessica's expression darkened. "Because I have watched 3 women before you be led into this trap. I did nothing then. I cannot live with myself if I do nothing again." She pressed the keys into my hand. The blue key opens the back gate. My car is the grey sedan. The alarm is already disabled. "Come with me," I urged. She shook her head. "I cannot. They would find us both. Someone needs to create a distraction while you escape." She checked her watch. "It is almost 9. They will be looking for you by now." A dilemma tore at me. Part of me wanted to run immediately to escape this nightmare, but another part, a stronger part, perhaps rebelled at the idea of simply fleeing. "They would just find someone else," I said, the realization dawning. "Another woman with no family, someone else Michael could charm." Jessica nodded reluctantly. "Eventually, yes. And you would be punished for helping me escape." She did not deny it. In that moment, something hardened inside me. I thought of the other women in that photo album. I thought of my mother who raised me to stand up for myself. I thought of the future brides who might fall into this trap if I simply ran away. "I am not going to just escape," I said, a plan forming rapidly in my mind. "I am going to expose them. I am going to end this." Jessica looked at me with surprise, then something like respect. "How?" I pulled out my phone. "First, I am going to record everything you just told me with all the details about the ritual. Then we are going to collect evidence from that preparation room if we can. And then I am going to confront them, all of them, with what I know." "That is incredibly dangerous, Anna." "So is letting them continue. Will you help me?" After a long moment, Jessica nodded. "Yes, but we will need to be very careful." I started recording as Jessica repeated everything she had told me, adding specific details about the ritual requirements, the family's beliefs, and the fates of previous potential brides. She showed the family records documenting the sacrifices going back generations each, with a woman's name recorded alongside the subsequent business successes attributed to her death. The ritual has specific requirements, Jessica explained. It must be performed at midnight before the wedding. The bride must come willingly to the dinner and consume the preparations. The sacrifice must be performed by the groom using a specific ritual dagger. If any element fails, they believe the pact is broken and disaster will befall the family. And this? I held up the brooch she had given me. How does this disrupt the ritual? It is the only thing that survived a failed ritual 2 centuries ago. The family believes it absorbed the energy of the interrupted ceremony. They keep it locked away, but I borrowed it recently. Their superstition makes them fear it. If you display it during the ceremony, it will cause chaos. When we had gathered all the evidence we could, I steeled myself for what came next. I am going back downstairs, I told Jessica. I need to play along until I can confront them all together. Be careful with the wine and food, she warned. Avoid consuming anything else. I will. Create a distraction in about 15 minutes, so they will gather everyone for the next phase. I slipped the phone with the recording and the brooch into hidden pockets in my dress, then made my way back to the dining room, prepared to give the performance of my life. When I returned to the dining room, the atmosphere had subtly shifted. The friendly conversation had given way to an undercurrent of tension, and several family members glanced at their watches with poorly concealed impatience. Patricia's smile tightened when she saw me. There you are, dear. We were beginning to worry. Sorry, I replied with feigned innocence. I got turned around in the hallways. This house is so big. Michael appeared at my side, his hand gripping my arm just a little too firmly. You should have asked for directions. Mother, perhaps we should move on to the special dessert. I noticed my wineglass had been refilled in my absence. Following Jessica's warning, I pretended to sip while actually letting the liquid rest against my closed lips. Yes, it is time, Patricia agreed, nodding to the servers. The family tradition. The special dessert turned out to be a dark crimson sorbet served in crystal bowls. As it was placed before me, I noticed the strange herbs mixed into the concoction and the expectant looks on everyone's faces. A toast, William announced, to Anna's integration into the Collins legacy. May she fulfill all our expectations. The double meaning made my skin crawl, but I smiled and raised my spoon, mimicking eating while actually letting the sorbet fall back into the bowl when no one was looking directly at me. Patricia watched me like a hawk. Do you feel anything special, dear? Any sensations? I feel warm, I lied, trying to appear slightly dazed. And lightheaded? Is that normal? Her smile widened. Perfectly normal. The Collins tradition is taking effect. Michael squeezed my hand and I forced myself not to pull away from his touch. It will be over soon. He whispered words that once might have been comforting, but now carried sinister meaning. Right on cue, a loud crash came from upstairs, followed by the sound of breaking glass. Jessica's distraction. What was that? Patricia demanded, rising from her seat. I will check, William offered, but Patricia shook her head. Everyone should prepare for the ceremony, she commanded. Michael, take Anna to the east room. The rest of you know your positions. Michael helped me to my feet, and I deliberately swayed a little as if unsteady. You are doing well, he murmured, mistaking my act for the effects of the drugged food. Just let it happen. He led me through the house to a staircase I had never ascended before, guiding me to the second floor and toward the locked room I had discovered earlier. With growing horror, I realized that if Jessica had not warned me, I would have been completely disoriented and vulnerable by now. The room, when Michael unlocked it, was even more disturbing than what I had glimpsed through the keyhole. Candles provided the only illumination, casting long shadows across ancient tapestries, depicting scenes of sacrifice and worship. In the center stood a stone altar, clearly very old, with drainage channels carved into its surface that left little doubt about its purpose. Michael, I said, dropping the act momentarily, what is this place? The heart of our family traditions, he replied, his voice taking on a formal quality I had never heard before. Every generation, this room witnesses the renewal of our covenant. Other family members began filing into the room, taking positions around the perimeter. They wore ceremonial robes, now dark fabric embroidered with the same symbols I had noticed throughout the house. Patricia and William entered last. Patricia now wearing an elaborate headdress adorned with antlers and bones. The hour approaches, she intoned. Prepare the bride. 2 female relatives approached with a white robe. It was time to act before they discovered I was not drugged. Wait, I said clearly, my voice cutting through the ceremonial atmosphere. Before we continue, I have questions. Patricia frowned. The wine should have taken effect by now. I did not drink it, I stated, stepping away from Michael and the women with the robe. Nor did I eat your drugged food. The room went silent. Michael stared at me with confusion, rapidly turning to alarm. Anna, you do not understand what is happening, he began. I understand perfectly. I countered, my voice strong despite my racing heart. This is a sacrifice ritual. You plan to kill me tonight to renew some twisted family pact that you believe brings you prosperity. Gasps and murmurs spread through the assembled family members. Patricia's face hardened into a mask of rage. Who told you this? She demanded. Jessica? She spat the name. That ungrateful girl never understood her place. Her place as your alibi, I challenged. The daughter who could never be a sacrifice, just a witness to your murders. Not murders, William interjected. Sacred traditions that have maintained the Collins legacy for generations. Our prosperity comes with a price. A price paid by innocent women, I said, looking around the room to meet the eyes of various family members. Like Elizabeth Carter in 1982, or Susan Reynolds in 1996. Did you tell their families what happened to them? Or did they just disappear? The mention of specific names caused visible discomfort among the older family members. Michael approached me, his expression pleading. Anna, please. This is larger than us. The family needs this. I need this. You are going to kill me, I said, looking directly into his eyes. After everything we shared, everything we planned. Was any of it real, Michael? Did you ever love me at all? His hesitation told me everything. I chose you carefully, he admitted. The perfect candidate according to all the criteria. But yes, I did grow to care for you in my way. Just not enough to spare my life. Patricia stepped forward, her ceremonial garments making her seem larger, more imposing. Enough of this. The hour approaches. Willing or not, the sacrifice will proceed. She nodded to several male family members who moved to surround me. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the brooch Jessica had given me, holding it up where everyone could see it. The effect was immediate. Patricia recoiled, her face contorting with fear. Where did you get that? Put it away. The failed sacrifice of 1824, I said, recalling Jessica's explanation. Caroline Williams broke your ritual. I intend to do the same. Seize her, Patricia commanded, but the family members hesitated, eyeing the brooch with superstitious dread. Taking advantage of their hesitation, I pulled out my phone. I have recorded everything. Jessica's explanation of your rituals, the family records this room. If anything happens to me tonight, it all gets sent to the police. William's face paled. You cannot expose us. The scandal would destroy everything. That is the point, I replied. This ends tonight. Michael lunged suddenly, grabbing for my phone. I dodged, but another family member caught my arm. In the struggle, the brooch fell to the floor, landing on the central stone of an elaborate mosaic pattern. What happened next I still cannot fully explain. Perhaps it was the power of suggestion on the superstitious minds of the Collins family. Perhaps there was something to their beliefs after all. The brooch seemed to glow where it touched the stone, and a low rumbling shook the room. Candles toppled, plunging sections of the room into darkness. Patricia screamed a sound of genuine terror that raised the hair on my arms. The pact is broken. The covenant is shattered. In the chaos that followed, family members scrambled toward the exits. I spotted Jessica in the doorway, gesturing frantically for me to follow her. Before I could move, Michael grabbed my arm. You have no idea what you have done, he hissed, his handsome face distorted with fear and rage. The family will be ruined. You did this, I told him, yanking my arm free, when you decided my life was worth sacrificing for your family's greed. I turned to leave, but Patricia blocked my path, her elaborate headdress askew, making her look deranged. You cannot leave. We must complete the ritual before midnight, or all is lost. She lunged at me with surprising strength, her bony fingers closing around my throat. I struggled, breaking her grip and pushing her away. She stumbled backward, crashing into the altar and hitting her head with a sickening crack. As family members rushed to Patricia's side, Jessica pulled me toward the door. Now, Anna, we need to leave now. We raced down the corridor as the strange rumbling intensified. Pictures fell from walls and a chandelier crashed to the floor behind us. The house itself seemed to be rejecting the broken ritual. Michael's voice echoed after us. Anna, come back. You have to fix this. We ignored his calls, running down the service stairs and through the kitchen to a back door that led into the gardens. Behind us, the sounds of confusion and panic filled the house. My car, Jessica gasped, pointing toward a small structure at the edge of the property, behind the greenhouse. We sprinted across the manicured lawn, the cool night air filling my lungs as we fled the nightmare inside. Just as we reached Jessica's sedan, I heard Michael's voice again, closer this time. Anna, stop. I turned to see him running toward us, something clutched in his hand, catching the moonlight. The ritual dagger. Go! I shouted to Jessica, who had already started the engine. I dove into the passenger seat as she floored the accelerator. Michael reached the car just as we pulled away, slamming his fist against the window with a look of desperation and fury I will never forget. As we sped down the long driveway and through the gates of the Collins estate, I watched in the side mirror as Michael became a diminishing figure in the darkness, still clutching the dagger that was meant to end my life. Jessica drove like a woman possessed, taking back roads and doubling back several times to ensure we weren't followed. My hands wouldn't stop shaking and my mind raced through everything that had happened, trying to make sense of the nightmare. Where can we go? I asked, breaking the tense silence. They'll look for me at my apartment. My friend is out of town. She lives in a secure building downtown with a doorman. We can stay there tonight. I shook my head. I need to go to Sophia's. She's expecting updates from me, and if she doesn't hear from me, she'll call the police. Jessica hesitated, then nodded. Give me the address. 20 minutes later, we pulled up outside Sophia's apartment building. I texted her that I was outside with a friend and needed to come up immediately. When the door to her apartment opened, Sophia took one look at my face and pulled me into a tight hug. What happened? You look terrible. Once inside with the door locked and blinds drawn, Jessica and I told Sophia everything. Her expression shifted from disbelief to horror as the full story unfolded. This is insane, she said when we finished. We need to call the police right now. And tell them what? Jessica asked. That my family practices human sacrifice, that they've been doing it for generations, without proof will sound delusional. I pulled out my phone. We have proof. I recorded everything. Jessica's explanation, the ritual room, the confrontation. We huddled around the phone watching the video I'd captured. The images were dark and sometimes shaky, but clear enough to show the altar, the ceremonial robes, and Patricia's face as she commanded the family to seize me. Holy shit, Sophia whispered. This is real. This actually happened. What do we do now? I asked, the adrenaline starting to fade, leaving me exhausted and overwhelmed. First, you both stay here tonight, Sophia said firmly. Tomorrow we take this to the police, but not the local precinct. We go straight to the state police or the FBI. The Collins family has too much influence locally. Jessica nodded in agreement. They'll be in chaos tonight with the ritual interrupted and Patricia injured. But by tomorrow, they'll have regrouped and started looking for us. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text message from Michael. Anna, please come back. We can explain everything. This is all a misunderstanding. Then another. Mother is hurt badly. She needs a hospital, but father won't take her because of questions. Please help us. And finally, if you go to the police, no one will believe you. You'll ruin both our lives for nothing. I love you. Come home. I showed the messages to Sophia and Jessica. Classic manipulation, Sophia said, disgusted. Don't respond. Patricia's hurt, Jessica asked, looking conflicted. Despite everything, she had been raised as Patricia's daughter. He's probably lying to get us to come back, I said, though I remembered the sickening crack when Patricia hit her head on the altar. Jessica checked her own phone. 6 missed calls from my father. No messages. We spent a restless night taking turns keeping watch jumping at every sound outside the apartment. None of us really slept. Around dawn, Sophia's television, which we had tuned to a local news station on mute, showed breaking news about a fire at a prominent family estate outside the city. We unmuted it immediately. Authorities responded to reports of a fire at the historic Collins estate around 3 a.m. this morning. The fire appears to have started in the east wing of the house and spread quickly. Several family members, have been taken to local hospitals with injuries, though no fatalities have been reported. The cause of the fire is under investigation. The east wing, Jessica said quietly. That's where the ritual room is located. They're destroying evidence, I realised. By mid-morning, we had gathered everything we needed and were preparing to drive to the state police headquarters when Jessica's phone rang. It was her father. She answered on speaker so we could all hear. Jessica. William's voice sounded strained. Where are you? Are you with Anna? I'm safe, father. That's all you need to know. Your mother is in the hospital. She has a severe concussion and internal bleeding. The doctors are doing everything they can. Jessica closed her eyes briefly. I'm sorry to hear that. The house, there was a fire. The east wing is destroyed. I saw the news. A pause. Whatever Anna thinks happened last night was a misunderstanding. A family tradition taken too seriously. Role-playing that got out of hand. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. They were already constructing their cover story. Role-playing with a real altar and a ritual dagger, Jessica challenged. Ancient family heirlooms used as props. Nothing more. Stop lying, Father. I've known the truth for years. I've seen the family records. Another pause. What do you want? Money? The family can be very generous to ensure private matters stay private. Sophia, who had been listening intently, mouthed, He's recording this, and wrote on a notepad, Be careful what you say. Jessica seemed to understand. We'll discuss this later, Father. I need to go. She hung up and turned to us. They're already covering their tracks. The fire, the reframing of what happened, the implied bribe. They're preparing for us to go to the authorities. My phone buzzed with another text from Michael. Please call me. The police are asking questions about the fire. We need to get our stories straight. That settled it for me. We're going to the police right now. At the state police headquarters, we were initially met with skepticism. A detective listened to our story with an expression that suggested he was humouring us until we showed him the video. We'll need to investigate this thoroughly. He said his demeanour completely changed. The Collins family is influential, but what you're describing, and what I can see in this video, is extremely serious. Over the next few days, events unfolded rapidly. The police obtained a warrant to search what remained of the Collins estate, where they discovered hidden rooms in the undamaged portions of the house, containing ritual implements and documentation of family traditions going back centuries. Michael was arrested while trying to board a private plane, allegedly heading to a family property in Europe. Patricia remained hospitalized under police guard. William and several other family members were taken in for questioning. The media exploded with the story, prominent family accused of cultish practices. Bride escapes ritual sacrifice at elite family estate. Collins family empire under investigation for disappearances dating back decades. Previous employees of the Collins family came forward with stories of strange behaviours and restrictive rules. Most significantly, investigators began looking into the disappearances of women connected to the Collins men over the generations, including the 3 women I had seen in that photo album. Through it all, I remained in a state of shock, alternating between numbness and overwhelming grief. I had lost not only my fiancé and the future I had planned, but my trust in my own judgment. How had I not seen the signs? How had I fallen so completely for Michael's manipulation? Jessica struggled with her own complex emotions, having betrayed the only family she had ever known, even if they deserved it. She entered a witness protection program, knowing that other Collins relatives who weren't directly involved in the ritual, but benefited from the family's wealth, might seek revenge. Before she left, she hugged me tightly. I'm sorry I didn't warn you sooner, she said. I always told myself the previous women got away, that they just broke off their engagements and left. I didn't want to see the truth. You saved my life, I told her. I'll never forget that. As for me, I couldn't stay in Chicago. There were too many memories, too many reporters seeking interviews, too many whispers when I was recognized in public. I needed a fresh start somewhere far away. 1 year after the night that changed everything, I stood in my small art gallery in Seattle, arranging the final pieces for our new exhibition. Outside, rain tapped gently against the windows, the Seattle weather as different from Chicago's as my new life was from my old one. After fleeing Chicago, I had spent a month with a distant cousin in Portland, the only family connection I had left. When I felt strong enough, I moved to Seattle and used a portion of the settlement money from the Collins family's civil case to open Aurora Gallery, specializing in works by artists who had overcome trauma. The journey to rebuild my life hadn't been easy. For months, I had struggled with nightmares, where I was trapped on that stone altar, Michael standing over me, with the ritual dagger, his face showing no recognition, no love. In the dreams, unlike reality, there was no escape. My therapist, Dr. Eleanor Marsh, specialized in trauma and betrayal. She helped me understand that what I had experienced was not just the shock of discovering the ritual, but the profound betrayal by someone I had trusted completely. You're grieving multiple losses. she explained during one of our weekly sessions. The loss of the relationship you thought you had, the future you had planned, and your sense of safety and trust in your own judgment. Rebuilding that trust in myself proved to be the most difficult challenge. I second-guessed every decision, questioned every new acquaintance's motives, and built walls around myself that kept everyone at a safe distance. It was Sophia who finally helped me break through that isolation. She had relocated to Seattle 3 months after I did, unable to find work in Chicago after being associated with the Collins scandal, as the media called it. "You can't live your life afraid of everyone," she told me bluntly over coffee one rainy afternoon. "One person betrayed you horribly. That doesn't mean everyone will." Slowly, I began to form new friendships, primarily through a support group for survivors of abusive relationships. These women understood the complex emotions of loving someone who had hurt you, the shame of not seeing the warning signs, and the struggle to trust again. Through them, I also connected with artists whose work spoke to themes of survival and rebirth, which became the focus of my gallery. Helping these artists find their voice gave me purpose and gradually restored my passion for curation. News about the Collins family continued to reach me, though I tried to avoid it. The criminal case against them had revealed decades of financial crimes alongside the ritual practices. Patricia had recovered from her injuries only to face multiple charges, including conspiracy to commit murder. William had turned state's evidence against other family members in exchange for a reduced sentence. Michael's case had been the most difficult for me to ignore. His defense team had initially tried to portray him as another victim brainwashed from childhood into the family cult. When that strategy failed, he accepted a plea deal for a 15-year sentence. 6 months into my new life, I received a letter from him. I recognized his handwriting on the envelope and nearly threw it away unopened. After carrying it around for a week, I finally read it during a therapy session with Dr. Marsh's support. "Anna," he had written, "I know no apology can ever be sufficient for what I plan to do. I was raised to believe in the family tradition, taught that the sacrifice was necessary and honorable. It was only when you escaped, when the ritual failed and nothing catastrophic happened to our family, that I began to question everything I had been taught. I am not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that what we had wasn't entirely a lie. I did love you in the only way I knew how, even while preparing to fulfill what I believed was my duty. I hope someday you find happiness with someone worthy of your trust. Michael." I had cried for hours after reading it, not because I forgave him, but because it forced me to confront the complexity of what had happened. Michael had been both my greatest love and the architect of my nearly fatal betrayal. Jessica occasionally contacted me through secure channels established by her witness protection handlers. She had settled in a small town in the Midwest under a new name, working as a pediatrician again. Like me, she was rebuilding her life piece by piece. "The hardest part," she wrote in one message, "is remembering that I was complicit for years before I helped you. I knew what they were doing and stayed silent. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make amends for that." As for my romantic life, I had taken only the smallest steps toward dating again. 3 months ago, I had agreed to have coffee with David, an architect who frequently visited the gallery. He was patient, respectful of my boundaries, and understood when I explained that I needed to move very slowly. "Everyone has baggage," he said when I vaguely mentioned my past. "Some just have matching sets and designer patterns." His self-deprecating humor and complete lack of pressure had allowed me to gradually lower my guard. We were still firmly in the friendship stage, but for the first time since Michael, I could imagine possibly opening my heart again someday. Today's exhibition opening marked an important milestone in my recovery. Titled Phoenix Rising, it featured works by survivors of various traumas, including 2 pieces by Jessica submitted under her new identity. The centerpiece was a sculpture I had commissioned from a renowned artist who had escaped a cult in her youth, a woman breaking free from chains that transformed into wings as they fell away. Sophia arrived early to help with the final preparations. "This place looks amazing, Anna," she said, surveying the transformed gallery space. "You've created something truly meaningful here." "I couldn't have done it without you," I told her sincerely. As I moved through the gallery, making final adjustments, I caught sight of my reflection in a decorative mirror. The woman looking back at me was different from the one who had eagerly planned a wedding a year ago. There were new lines around my eyes, a wariness in my expression that hadn't been there before. But there was also strength and clarity that I had gained through surviving the unimaginable. The doorbell chimed, announcing the arrival of Jessica, now known as Sarah Jensen. We embraced tightly, this woman who had once been my almost sister-in-law and had become something far more meaningful, the person who had saved my life. "Your gallery is beautiful," she said, looking around with genuine admiration. "This exhibition is going to help so many people." "That's the hope," I replied. Art helped me process everything. Maybe it can do the same for others. As we prepared to open the doors to the public, I took a final moment to reflect on the journey that had brought me here. I had been selected by the Collins family because I was alone in the world with no family to miss me if I disappeared. They had seen my isolation as a weakness to exploit. Yet in the aftermath of escaping their plot, I had found a different kind of family. Sophia Jessica, my support group, the artists whose work now filled my gallery. The connections I had formed were stronger and more genuine than anything I had experienced with Michael and his family. The betrayal I had suffered was beyond what most people could imagine, but it hadn't destroyed me. Instead, it had revealed a resilience I never knew I possessed. Like the phoenix in my exhibition's title, I had risen from the ashes of my old life to create something new and meaningful. As I opened the gallery doors to welcome the first visitors, I knew that while the scars of my experience would always remain, they no longer defined me. The woman who had nearly become a sacrifice had instead become a survivor, stronger for having faced the darkness and emerged on the other side. Have you ever had your instincts warn you about a person or situation that others thought was perfectly fine? I ignored those warnings once, but now I know to trust that inner voice. Share your experiences in the comments about times your gut feeling saved you from a bad situation. If my story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life experiences of overcoming adversity. And if you know someone who might be ignoring red flags in a relationship, share this video with them. It might just be the wake-up call they need. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, sometimes what seems like the end of your story is actually just the beginning of a better one.